Hey guys, today I've taken a very difficult project on my Honda Accord 2005 model. This car is done about 400k plus. Guess what? My starter failed. It's been a month. I noticed that the starter was struggling on certain days when it's cold. Initially, I suspected the battery, but the battery is all good. I tested the battery, which is fantastic. But then 2 days back, it literally died. Luckily, it happened in my driveway. Now, unfortunately, I could not take this to the shop, and I thought, okay, let's give it a try. And I know it's in a very difficult spot now. The starter is hiding right underneath these intake manifold. Usually a lot of these tubes need to be removed, but today I'm going to do this in a very simple method. I'm going to show you what needs to be done to get this done under like 20 minutes, give or take about. All right, now the first thing you want to do is when you suspect that your car is not starting, the first thing you want to check, the battery is all good. If the battery is good, then your probable suspect is your starter. With age, of course, it deteriorates. Now the next thing you want to do is there is a relay for the starter. You may want to check the relay because I know a lot of people end up changing the starter and then the same problem, and then they figure out that it's just like $15 of relay which you should change, but you didn't even check that. Now where is that relay located? I'm going to show you. This is kind of the main fuse box, but the relay is not here. It's on the driver's side on the inside. I'm going to take you guys there. All right. All right. It's here. So there's a little plastic which comes off from here, and then once you remove the plastic, you're going to see a bunch of relays there. Now, just take a look here. The one right on the bottom row, the extreme right, now that's the relay for your starter. Now, what I would do is these relays are interchangeable. So I did a flip. I just made sure that I flipped these starters, and I tried, but unfortunately my car wouldn't crank. All I hear is a click. Then I noticed that it's definitely not the relay, but I need to change the starter. All right, things you need, of course, you need a starter. Now, one I got for my car, for my model, I got the Denso, which is the OE for the Honda models. Now it's here. The model number is, if you can see it, it's I think it's 286006. That's a model number for mine. Just Google that. You should be able to get the model number. I got this off Amazon for about $380. So that's one, and of course, then you definitely need the gasket. Remember, when you remove the intake manifold, highly recommended change the gasket. The one I used is a company by the name Felpro, well known. I checked the reviews, it's pretty good. So please change the gasket. It's very, very important. All right, tools. These are what you need. All right, let's get to the point. Now, you might need a small bungee cord. I'll tell you why this is needed. So this was one of my tricks I used to keep that intake manifold kind of retracted. Definitely need a nose plier. You need a 12 millimeter to remove one of the bolts of the connecting wire into the starter. Now, you definitely need one of these extendable ratchets. Also, not extendable, but possible something which can kind of angle in and out like that. So you need a ratchet which can angle it, because the starter is a very, very tight spot. You definitely need one of these. You don't need anything fancy. I'm not using any power tools. I'm just using these tools and my the strength in my hand to get these bolts out. So now another thing you need a 17 mm for sure, and then you would need a 14 mm, no doubts, and of course you need a 10 mm to take the cover off. Maybe a few of these extensions for the ratchets. Just make sure you come in handy. Just a few of those should do the trick for sure. So those are all the tools you need, nothing else, and let's get the done job. Okay, let's get started. All right, first thing first is here. That's the negative terminal. Make sure, please take away the negative terminal of your battery. You don't want to be arcing inside when you're removing the wire. So take this off, just put it aside, make sure it doesn't make any contact. That's the very first thing you do. I think you may want to use a nose plier or any sort of a plier to remove the screw, and usually it pops out. So just kind of put it aside. Now remember, once you remove your batteries, you may have to reset your radio channels. That's the easiest part of the job. All right, first thing, you see the the two bolts here. These two need to come off to remove the cover. Okay, let's get this off first. All right, I'm using a 10 millimeter. I already cranked it, so just pulling it out of the hand. You can take here. Now save these careful, don't lose it. It's a good idea to have maybe those long extension magnets in case you drop these. You can just put it out of the the main engine area. There we go. Usually it pops out. Okay, and what I would suggest is just replace them back so you don't want to lose them. That's one of my suggestions. There we go. So this has come off. All right, next thing is what we're going to do is we're going to take this intake manifold off, like, just make sure. So now if you see here, there's one here, you need a 12 millimeter for that. There's another one there, there's another one here, there's one here, and there's one there. See that? So it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's not it. There's one more. If you can look in there, there's another retaining one which is sitting right. Just gonna see if I can. Oh yeah, right there. You see the little bracket there? There's one more there at the bottom that needs to be removed as well. So all you need is a 12 millimeter to do this. Let's get this done. All right, there we go. Okay, I loosened most of these, so they should come off. All right. Okay, when you remove this, just be careful, don't drop them. I would suggest just screw them. They're not that long, so okay, there we go. And usually I put my finger and I would take it out. Okay, now say these carefully, and then you got to do the rest. Now remember, these are the long screws. Now these are the bolts. Now remember, take a look at these ones. So hold them really, really careful. Don't drop them. So these are the two small bolts which goes here. This one and this one. The rest are the long ones too. Okay, so you got to take these off. All right, to get the last one out, you may have to retract this coolant hose, and you can see it's sitting right here. So I'm just going to use a little bit of an extension. So I'm just going to get in through the gap, and I gotta get this open. That's it. That's your space there, but with your one hand you have to retract. I won't be able to take this with my video on, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that. All right, you notice the one I removed is a little shorter than the other ones. So the one at the bottom is a bit shorter. Just make sure not to mix it up. All the ones I removed from the top, they were longer. The one at the bottom is a shorter one. Okay, so just make sure to remember that. The one thing I highly recommend is, you see this intake hose right there. If you can just pull this out, so it's easier for the manifold to kind of open out. So just use a flathead, and there's a small screw there which is holding it down like a bracket. So just see if you can remove that a little bit, and then you notice that you should be able to easily pull this off, just like that. So it's going to come off. There we go. Just lift it and just keep it aside. All right, you don't want to be putting too much of force here because these joints sometimes can crack. You want to just save these, and if you possible, you see that wire there which is usually sitting on this, just see if you can pull it out. You don't have to remove anything else just for now. Okay. All right, you notice once you got all the screws off, just give it a little bit of a wiggle, and then make sure you see that little hose, just move it to the side. You don't want to get caught and pull it off, and then you can see how it kind of opens up. All right, now I got some space to work here, right inside there. That's where the starter motor is. Okay, now remember I was talking about the bungee cord. Now that's when it comes in handy. So this bungee cord, what you want to do is just maybe you want to make sure. Now that's a gasket. You can see here, the gasket is sitting right there. So that's the gasket we need to change at the end. All right, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. All right, so what I would do is I'm just going to have this kind of looped here. All right, that's a good spot. And here's the one, so that you can keep this kind of retracted, so it helps you to complete your job. It's right around the radiator cup, you can see there. So you want to just keep that retracted. Now, if you want a little more tension, of course you can do that. I'm just going to take that out. All right, give it a couple of spins, so there's more traction on that. It's going to keep that open. Right there, perfect. Now you notice right inside, that's where the starter motor is sitting right there. You see the number 43 on that? That's the original Honda one, which I need to remove. Okay, first thing first. Now, if you look inside right there, there should be, let me just see there. Now I'm trying to get a good angle. Okay, now that's the, all right on. So that is the knock sensors wire. You have to just push a clip and you can just pull it off. Now it's a good idea to remove the knock sensor wire there. So just keep it aside. And then there is this wire attached to the starter. There's a little clip. So that's when the nose plier comes in. You have to just compress that clip, and you want to just push it outside right there. Usually it pops out. All right, and then you see there's a wire here that needs to be retracted. If you just pull on it, it usually comes off. Right there, you see it, how it just came off there. And this is when you need the 12 millimeter. Just lift the rubber, and then you'll see there's that screw holding down the wire on that starter. This is when you don't want to spark or arc it. That's why I said remove that negative cable there too. So I got to remove this, and of course this, and the knock sensor wire. Okay, there you go. So what I did, I went ahead, and you can see this was the one which I pulled out from here, and then from here I removed the rubber boot. That's a 12 millimeter I removed. Now you can see there's a lot more room. Now there are two bolts holding that starter. This whole thing is a starter. I'm not sure if you can see. Can you see that elongated bolt? Honda was smart enough to give something elongated. That's a 14 millimeter. And then, I'm not sure if you can see the other one. I'm going to try to angle that. Okay, right underneath this big wire. Let's see there. That's the other one you can see there. That's a bit rusted. Now here's my trick. Before you do anything, I would recommend just spray penetrating lubricant into that and leave it for about 15 minutes, and then you want to just crank it open. So this one is a little easier to get out with an extension ratchet, but this one is a bit tricky because of the angle. So what I use, I'm going to show you how I'm going to remove this one underneath the wire there, the tight spot. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell you guys is if you look inside here, there are two hoses. One's a vacuum hose, so this can be pulled out by using a nose plier, and this one you just have to pull it out of the clamp. So right there, and bingo. So just keep it aside, and once you got this in, see, I just was able to pull it with my hands because I already used my nose pliers to come off. So now you have lots of room here now, lots of room. You see here, to work around that starter motor right there. Yep, just want to put this inside. Now you can see a lot of space there, right? All right, keep that in mind. All right, you can see what I've done. So I had the ratchet at an angle. You see the elongated one, I already cranked it. And once you have enough room, you can just remove that. But that's when this angulation comes in handy on the ratchet, because of the angulations. That's why it's very important to have the angle ratchet out. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to remove that. And then once it's loosened up, I'll just pull it out. You see the angle I used. I'm just going to put it over here, and pretty much I can go in there and use my fingers to take it off. All right. All right, just put it out of there, and you can see here, that's the one I just took it off. And look at that extra length they're given. I wish they'd given the same one for the other one. I'm not sure who was the genius who thought about this, to just keep this longer, the other one shorter, which was the most difficult. The most difficult part of the job is getting the other one out, but this one is a little bit easier one too. Now, when you want to put this back, I highly suggest just put some anti-seize on this, put this back, and the next time you want to do this, maybe after another 10 years, it just slides off quite easy too. All right, so I'm going to go in and get the other rusted one. I already sprayed the penetrating lubricating oil, so let's see how that comes out. All right, that's the one I used, the Torano brand penetrating. I just sprayed it and I left it for about 15 minutes, and I was able to get in with the same ratchet at an angle, and I was able to crank it. All right, to get the other bolt off, you definitely need a little bit of an extension there, and this is a 17 mm, and I have to go at an angle to get this done. All right, you can see here right there I was able to access with an angle. Now here's a little tip. So now I'm just going to get that straight. Now when you have this straight, you can see there's not much of a room from here to here, but this place being a lot broader, this is what I'm going to suggest is if you're using the angle, you can just angle it out and you want to get one of the grip, and then once it clicks you want to get that nice and straight. But the only problem is it's going to rub on this part where the gasket sits. Now you don't want to damage this metal, that's why I have a cloth here. So I would kind of put the cloth right there and then get this right over, you see here, but it's going to be nice and tight. And when I'm ready, I'm just going to push this away to loosen it. Now you may have to give a couple of bangs. I just used my hand and I gave a couple of bangs there and I was able to loosen that thing. So remember, put the cloth, don't damage the edges here because that's where the gasket sits. So I was able to loosen that a couple of times and then I was able to get that through. That's a tough one. I'm telling you guys, the toughest part of the job is getting that screw. I'm not a mechanic, I'm an ordinary guy. I was able to do that. If I can do it, you can do it too, okay? All right, that's the other bolt which I got out. This is a tough one. Once again, I'm going to put some anti-grease here as well, an anti-seize component before I put it in there as well. So there you can see, just going to zoom it in, that is where the starter motor is. I'm going to crank it a little bit, just give it a little bit of a jiggle, and then I want to just take it out very, very carefully. All right, there we go. Got it out. So that's the old one, the original Honda one. This lasted about 400,000. This is a Japanese one. Of course, the Denso ones are not. They are North American made. Okay, that's it. It's time to put the new one back again, exactly in reverse order. Alright, it'll be a good idea to check if the old one and the new one match. So mine does. You can see here it's an exact match of what I removed. Alright, it's time to put this back and just reverse all the techniques. Alright, let's see how that goes. Alright, you can see there, that's a new one. It sits really well. Alright, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this anti-seize just to dab a little bit on these bolts, and I want to get that in there. Alright, you can see the new starter is in place. I got the bottom screw. You see the top long one is in as well. I gave a good torque on these. Now all I got to do is put this alright, there we go. Just insert this one here. Yeah, there you go. Get the cup, get the 12mm, get this done, and then don't forget the knock sensor wires right here. You gotta put that and make sure it clips. Alright, and then don't forget to replace the vacuum hose here, and then just repeat the whole process. Alright, let's see once I put everything together. Hope it starts. Okay, that's it guys. I put the intake manifold back in place. Remember I told you replace the gasket. This is the old gasket, it's out. So I got the new gasket in place. Now put these bolts back in. Now keep in mind, this is very important. You only have to torque this about 16 pounds. Don't torque it too much. You don't want to crack the head. That's a bigger problem. Then you got to replace the whole thing. Okay. Now the order in which I put it, just hand tighten everything. Put the center one, put this one here, this one here, and the one here, and there's the mounting bracket at the bottom one there. So make sure they hand tight all of that, and then using your torque wrench, just gently tighten the center one. Make sure it gets a grip, and then go to this one, get a little bit of grip on that, and this one. And look, I'm going zigzag to this one, and finally this one. And make sure in between, do the one at the bottom as well while you're doing these ones on the top. So make sure you get a grip on all the 5 and then start to torque the same order. Do the center, maybe do the bottom, and then go over here, torque to like about 16 pounds, 16 here, 16 here, and 16 here. Make sure it's nice and snug. You don't want to be over torquing it. Now I haven't put the cover back here again. Now that needs to come back, and then when you're ready, put the negative cable back into the battery terminal, and here we go. So moment of truth. I made sure I put the intake hose back in here and tightened the screw, pushed all the wires in. Anything which came out, it's all been like jammed. I didn't remove any of this, only this came off. Make sure you really, and when you put this back, it's important that make sure it goes all the way to the end, and then this will start to loosen up, and then you have to tighten that screw. Okay, so just double check if there's no cracks or breaks. It's a good time to check. All right, that does affect your engine performance. If not, all right, everything looks good. Okay, let's go in. Here we go. Moment of truth. All right, let's see if my project was a success. Just give it a couple of seconds, everything resets, the ECU runs a little bit of a test, and there we go. Boom! Yay! It's done. Yeah. So it was my starter. So that's the bad guy. Looks good. Wonderful. Good luck, guys. All the best.